Okay. Snacks. Snacks.
What a great way to start a video. Smell what's in this bag. Oh my God. Chrysanthemummy. ZhenWuA. Move the liver heat. Ooh.
Right in the eye.
Ooh. Chrysanthemum? Wow, you're like Oprah. You get an eggplant. You get an eggplant. Or is that passion fruit?
Passion fruit.
Oh. You get a lily koi.
Yeah, lily koi for everyone.
Precious. Hi guys, welcome to our full moon talk. This is our pig moon.
Yeah, big moon.
Not an invitation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nobody should be here. You should all be asleep. I should be asleep.
I was trying to make a butt joke, you know. Shannon's are pig and moons are, you know, bare butts.
Oh, yeah, that could have been way clearer.
Jokes aren't funny if you have to explain them.
No.
You could have been making moving jokes the
Yeah.
whole time since the 10th moon.
I saw that my
This is the 11th
The
moon.
11th.
No, sorry, 10th moon. This is the 10th moon. There's 2 more moons in here.
that was unintentional, but it was actually good.
So everybody knows Huntun, yeah, the chaos, you know,
Yeah.
Huntun. The cosmological concept of the Huntun is that's pig.
Oh.
That's supposed to be pig. So it's kind of like I remember Ming saying that if you're walking through the 12 animals, and pig is technically like kind of considered the last, even though there's no beginning or end. So, but it's just the point where like, you know, you hit the brakes and all the other animals kind of run into each other, you know, and then it's just like kind of like a little bit of a mess, right?
That's a nice picture.
Yeah. So there can be, chaos can be this Huntun. It just depends on how you look at it. If you're from a culture that is, you know, greatly afraid of endings, it doesn't, it is deeply like offended by, you know, not having continuous growth, then this moon is a little bit frustrating, I'm sure, you know, it's like, you know, like just kind of feeling a little bit edgy. That would be considered a ghostly response. You know, so it's in the cosmology of the Tongshu, and the things that Ming taught us was to say that there has to be a point where everything stops, like it's done, you know. So there's a lot of different ways to describe this. As the movements that we were talking about before were in and down, right? Everybody in and down. And then the 10th moon, it's a swallowing. So it's like drawing in, but then when you swallow, it's done, you know, like you're not bringing that back out, you know, so hopefully like a proper digestion when you swallow, it's one way, right? You know, so like that's the idea, is the chi is being swallowed. Now it's not just in and down, it's like, okay, it's gone. It's in that process. Another image is ZhenWu, right? Which is the tortoise and the snake. And ZhenWu, the tortoise, is seen as coming up from the depths and gathering in the seasonal yin and swallowing it and taking it to the bottom of the ocean. And like right now, this technically would have begun Monday. In so far as you could actually pinpoint these things, you know, there's a lot of different indicators that sort of, you know, point to different things. But one of the images that I would say, if you were going to pick a day, then it would be Monday. That where you had this kind of this gathering and swallowing energy, and now we're sort of gliding to the bottom. You know, not really actively swimming. You know, you know, you're not like, because you know, spoiler alert, there is no bottom, right? So if you go swimming like super fast, you don't get there any quicker. You know. You know, like, so it kind of, so it's an interesting thing to say, like, you know, relax, because your pace actually doesn't really matter, you know, and if you push it in any particular direction, all you're doing is wasting the chi that you should be storing. And that's the reason why, you know, this is the time where yang chi should not escape. So you should be holding that like as like a precious thing, right? Because if you don't, Ming was very clear about that, like you die sooner. That's just the way it is. You know, so if you're like, if during these months you're like sweating and being busy and like trying to, you know, check off the boxes and get all these kinds of things done and meet deadlines and, you know, all these different things, you're aggressive. That aggression is just, you know, your own native chi is just spilling out into an atmosphere that doesn't rejuvenate it. Yin just goes, okay. It'll just keep taking it. Kind of like, you know, cold, you know, takes the heat from your body. So the idea is get warm, stay warm, don't get cold, right? And move, circulate, you know, because you don't want, the other end is stagnation. So you don't want to like be stagnant, but you want to circulate in very habitual ways, and not just physically, but also the energy of like what we're committed to, right? Because you know, pigs are yin water. So like this sort of undifferentiated quality makes it very easy to, you know, one of pig's superpowers is forgetfulness.
I get that.
Yeah,
Comes with the transformation.
yeah, because you're not really attached to any one particular thing. It's a junta, you know, so we're not at the point in the huntun, this would be rat, where you start going, I want, wait, that one, you know, I want that piece of the huntun and put it over here. And then you're starting to rebuild. But in the pig, you're dispersing and you just continue to disperse. So, and again, there's no bottom, and there never will be a bottom to the, or an end to the potential for dispersal. There's no limit really to yin and the potential, and that's by definition is limitless. So trying to put a boundary around it for the sake of meditation might be problematic, but for the sake of preserving your life, good idea. You know, just as a human being, like you're basically trying to just not lose your shit. You know, during this time, you're just trying to like maintain routine, not expect too much, and just kind of keep it rolling. Yeah, I often say with pigs, like their MO is, you know, if you take events over a long enough period of time, things are looking up. That's pretty much the pig's motto. Like, you know, as long as you can keep the ball rolling, there's always a chance. But if there's, you know, if it's just dark and more dark, and you know, and conclusions are really kind of coming, that's when you know, depression and you start to sort of lose touch with the preciousness of the thing that you're preserving, and it starts to kind of untether. So that's always a danger, particularly in a water tiger year. It's particularly dangerous. You know, there could be points in the calendar where that sort of thing could happen, where your identity and the identity of your environment start to merge, and that lack of differentiation causes medical problems. You know, but that also means that you're somewhat loose. You know, this is a very good time to see where you're clenching, right? Because chronic conditions aren't a yin thing, they're yang. Like this is where you've got clenched and it's covered over, so you can't see it. So this is a time when things are loosening, you can get in there and like pull on something that's stuck, and like not to take it somewhere, just to like pull it just once or twice, you know, and then just let it unravel on its own. So the native element of pig is water, as we mentioned, but this is a metal pig. So, and that doesn't negate any of these things. It's just to say that the superpower this moon is reluctance. It's to basically say, yeah, maybe not. I mean, let's not say we did. Or, the metal pig defines their sense of fun predominantly by what they don't do, not what they do. Yeah, do. So they're masters of like negation. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. and somehow they find the things that they like. Speaking as a metal pig, that's why most metal pigs are. When you line up, you can line up rats, and they're all kind of the same. Like a series of rats or monkeys. They're all kind of, and dragons if you could find them. The fact that you can't find them, that's where they are. But like if you line up a series of metal pigs, all very different from each other. They're pretty unique in that way, of what they're interested in or passionate about. And it's largely due to that. Like, well, out of the 100,000 things or the 10,000 things you could choose in life, I've negated this 999,000 and you've negated this other. And so it kind of makes their profile a little bit different. But it's that process of elimination, I think, that kind of unites most metal pigs in general. So it's not a time to really get agitated about anything. It can be a very kind, gentle time. And that would be the recommendation. Be gentle.
Water under the bridge.
Yeah. It don't matter. I saw this great meme that basically said, we're entering the season, we're entering the let's link up after the holiday season. That's the time of year where you're like, let's try January. Makes sense. Yeah. So the idea is that you should always be home before dark. You shouldn't eat after 7. These are kind of basic, little attributes of so nice. So good.
Hey, microphone. Can you smell it? Microphone.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Ooh,
Wet earth.
Yeah, under the moss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. You almost expect an earthworm to kind of come out of it.
Yeah. We are drinking 2000 ZhenWuAstrology Petrichor, courtesy of Brian Curtis of Theosophy. Thank you, homie. Felt good tea. And perfect warming.
Yeah, very good. Like actually, I'm awake now. That's nice. Yeah, retreat. So the idea is that you should have defenses already put up. Like this one of the things I wrote about for today was like, it's a little too late to be putting on the brakes right now. You should have been putting on the brakes already. Like, so with the Western mindset, they're not thinking it's winter until it's like the solstice, which of course is sort of missing half of winter because the first half came to the solstice, right? So the solstice represents a period of time where it's in decline, right? Where that's when ZhenWu comes back and releases the seasonal chi, right? That everything that you've been incubating. So I mean, I'm making it sound like there's nothing to do, and like for this culture, that's a great prescription. Like if you can, if you can have your friends call you and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like, nothing. That's great. That's an excellent pattern of conduct.
What a luxury.
Very much so. Yeah. And even, and of course I find myself being like, yeah, that'll never work. But because it's not even work for me, but like also, having your routines in place. That's why I say it's also a way of keeping warm. So this is, if you were a medicine practitioner and you were near the end of your life, this wouldn't be the time. But shortly before this time this is when you go on your death march. Because this is the season when the other metaphor is heaven and earth have separated, right? They've uncoupled. And heaven ascends, earth descends, and becomes unproductive. But there was Brianna, one of my contemporaries, and people also studied with me. The way she described it is that there's a pause in alchemy. So we're kind of done with the sharing. We're done with this kind of process. That there isn't like, there are resources that you frugally live off of. There's a kind of something that's been established and preserved and cared for and sheltered that then becomes what sustains you. But you shouldn't expect a lot from the environment. You shouldn't be going into the environment to be generative of something you don't already have. You have everything you need. And of course, nobody has everything they need, which is the reason why everybody needs each other. So that's particularly the energy of the rat, which would be next moon. Is it like, I'm almost done with my stuff. What do you got? Well, I can share this. I've got plenty of this. And then you start kind of like really realizing how deeply that your survival is really linked to each other in that way. That's the whole chi of rat. But right now we're just all free fall. And with that sort of with the sort of decoupling of heaven and earth, what I think is very interesting is that Pig Chi is connected to the senses in your incarnation, your body. And I think part of the reason why that is because that's all you got right now. Like that's really the telltale, what's left over when heaven and earth separate is the fact that you're here, incarnated with all the resources that implies. And so your senses, your attention, all of those things are going to be enhanced because there's nothing else in the way. It's just that. It's just, so can you sit, the idea is, can you just sit quietly in a dark room?
Yeah.
Right. That'll never happen, but like, that's the invitation, right? Because you're working with this energy of the season, which is that life and death are deeply interconnected. Procreation is enhanced because you are inherently walking the line between incarnation, dissolution. So like reproductive, that's why all the senses, like this is the reason why so many babies are born in the summer. Is because we're all kind of trying to be warm and we're like very connected to our incarnation, and reproduction tends to happen out of that. Is that we're all just sort of in that space where we're just heightened so strongly in that way. So it's gonna be a really magical time. And this is also a place, like once you take the big light of heaven away from earth, then all the other realms start becoming luminescent. So this is a very liminal time too. So retreat and divination practice. Retreat, sleep, and divination practice can be incredibly illuminating, during this time. Ancestral practices, knowing that basically, as a friend of mine likes to say, veils are thin, like super thin. And particularly this last Sunday was just like, yeah, exactly. It was like a little bit weird, but so what, you just remember your humanity. Don't get lost, thinking in the sensationalism of like, well, there's other spirits, like the Confucian teaching is, yeah, so what, like, it doesn't matter, they,
You repeat that? What's the confusion?
yeah, so what?
Yeah, so what? I gotta write
So
that down. It's my notes.
So what? It's only for, human, people that have lost touch with being able to identify what they are, like in their humanity, and being able to drop into that humanity, or that we devalue it, you know, in this culture, that we think it's inherently bad. You know, like that we start getting fascinated with things that aren't that way. We project into as something that might be special or somewhat in some way, not necessarily as problematic as us. And like, spoiler alert, every other realm has problems. You know, like there's nothing special about any other realm. Every other realm this is part of my practice. I'm firmly convinced, like most realms actually you know, a lot of these realms want to come to this one, you know. So if you're out there taking loads of ayahuasca and trying to turn into something else, there's plenty of other beings that'll take advantage of that. You should be careful. You should be really careful, especially during this time.
Yeah, that one. That was the heat right there. Wow.
Yeah, be careful with psychedelics at this time. It could be problematic for sure. But I think this is a delicious time. Of course, I think that because I'm big.
Yeah.
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 So I feel quite at home with this kind of like spaciousness, you know, undefined spaciousness. But that's not always so comfortable for like horses, you know, that like have a job to do and want to do it. Yeah, they want an assignment, you know, that keeps changing them. You know, like that's the worst thing you can do to a horse is give them a terrain that's constantly changing. You know, they'll get very tense.
Ox too, for that matter.
I think, yeah, ox. Anybody who has any of the characters have a tendency to not slow down, you know, but just bear the weight. You know, this is a problem. This is a problematic time, like full of, you know, difficult emotion, you know, what have you. Yeah, so horses, oxen, even tigers. I mean, no, I'm gonna take that back. Tigers should be very comfortable with sleeping a lot right now and disappearing. Similar with like dragons. You see with Matt, he's like, I'm out.
Bye guys. Yeah.
I'm out to the islands.
Busy castrating.
Dude, I talked to him today. He finished the castrating. He's on his way to LA.
Oh wow! Of course.
Right? That's my mom's school. Shout out to Tron 3030.
Holy moly!
Yeah, like Daniel East. Kicking it in LA. Shout out to Matt.
Shout out to Matt. Yeah, check out his site. He's got a lot of really good stuff. Qigong practice, great idea, right now. Very good idea. Yeah, just don't sweat, people. Don't sweat. Don't need to sweat. No sweating. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No sweat. You just build a little heat, but don't feel like perspiration. Like, you know, don't soak your clothes.
Ooh, a little rosy in the cheeks.
Yeah, yeah. Get some warmth going, but don't.
No summer. No steamer.
Yeah, it depends. I'm gonna say it depends on your constitution. Like I would, you know, check your pulse basically, you know, because like when you're in sweat, when you're in places where you're doing sweat, your yins, you're letting your yin out, you know, while you're letting your fluids kind of off your body, right? And that can be really, you know, it's a reset. It's like nice and nourishing, get your body a chance to then recover. It's kind of purgative.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not touching the yang the first.
Right.
So if somebody's got
right.
a lot of yin, it's cool.
Yeah, somebody's got a lot of yin, it's cool, you know, because this is a very yin environment. So you might be able to spare some of the yin that you're letting out. Might be a really good time to have that. But you definitely want to be careful about how far you take it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Question. Here we are in full moon.
Question.
Oh, no.
Question.
Hey!
That worked. So, question. Full moon lecture.
What's up?
And it's actually set for another one because full moon, murder moon. and eclipse.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What do we think about that in cosmology?
As far as eclipses are concerned, I have a standard answer for that, which is it doesn't matter.
That's twice a day.
Doesn't matter. And
I love that.
the thing about it is, from the cosmology, the Tongshu, you want to align yourself with things that regularly occur. You don't want to align with yourself with things that like won't see you in another 500 years. So it doesn't matter. Like that might be the time when very tangential or abstract, but it would depend on some of the other indicators. For instance, on Sunday, which was like right before that, was right in that same window as a crazy eclipse or what have you. That window happened to be a particular indicator that was calling attention to the many other realms. So it was like, and it was when winter was beginning. So it was a really amazing, like that Sunday into Monday, and it was a water pig, which is the 60th. It's the last of the last.
Oh.
So that was the Huntun day, where that basically, big yin and winter just dropped down, and like a big sack, and then everything just kind of circulated in this kind of Huntun way. And that meant that it would depend very much on where you were, because all those sort of liminal realms would be much more available. So if you were in the woods, that would be treacherous, but if you're like in my case, like I was at I was at the chocolate festival on, Pier 66 in downtown Seattle, like surrounded by humanity. I'm like, it's a pretty safe space. Like they're not all, because it's just a bunch of humans like having chocolate, maybe a little weird here and there, but like, but generally speaking, on that day, which is a Watcher's Day, you wanted to be behind battlements, they say. You want to be in the spaces that are familiar. You didn't want to go any place unique. You didn't want to like go off on a tangent. I think I'm going to go for a hike at dusk. No, you didn't want to do things like that. You just wanted to like stay home, eat nourishing food, be with things that are familiar and chill and let this pass. Because it's like saying any eclipse, the Chinese are like, no, don't go watch an eclipse. Like stay home, like let it pass. Because unless you have training, to be a sky watcher, and like unless you're in those kind of spaces, it's considered somewhat rude, to go watch a cosmological phenomenon like it's like it's your daughter's dance recital or something. Like it's just considered that like you don't really know what you're doing, in that respect. And so, but Westerners want to, see this as like the once in a lifetime opportunity. Make your intentions now, like about like how you want to spend the rest of your life. Make your intentions now, and they will be 10,000 times enhanced, and all these different things. Yeah, maybe, but probably not, because you really want to make your intentions at a space and time that is going to come again, and you can do that by the 28 day indicators. They're great days for making intentions and moving forward on things. And if you mess up, it'll come again. So like, you don't have to wait another 500 years to make your special intention, right? You can just actually be in your experience and live your life and not wait for a special event.
The mundane is the special. You can't untangle them. Or when you do untangle them, you can set yourself up for potential harm. Yeah, that's kind of what you're not trained for it.
Good.
Why put your intention all around a day that will never come again,
right,
while you're in this realm?
Right. You'll be dead by the next time it comes around. So
Yeah.
Why would it be special to you?
Right.
you're dead when it comes around again, unless you want to be a ghost that chases special experiences. I mean,
Oh, unless you want to be a ghost.
which people do. Like, I mean, they don't say that, but like your behavior shows that. It's Ming's revelation porn.
Dharma stuff.
Yeah, what is your behavior? Your behavior demonstrates someone who is, from the Chinese cosmology, possessed.
Homework. Are you a ghost?
Are you a ghost? Because you might be.
Check yourself.
But that actually, I mean, it points to, I mean, that's part of the cosmology, particularly in the Taoist cosmology. It's like you don't, or the Buddhist cosmology for that matter, you have absolutely no certainty that you are the same person that you were 5 minutes ago. So, you know, yes, sometimes you might be a ghost. Sometimes I definitely have ghost. You could call it ghostly behavior, whatever it is you want to call it. You snap out of it, you know, maybe a couple minutes later and be like, man, I really shouldn't have yelled at that dude on the freeway. You know, like, but still, what was that moment? Because you weren't like in a rational place and in control and just allowing this emotion to come out. That's a description you make later. In that moment, you're a ball of hatred. And like that's your actual condition in that time. I hate to say it, but it's true. You know, like, so that's the non-dual, or even the Buddhist meditation, is to just recognize that we're a lot more porous than we take for granted, or that we're told by this culture. And so that means that this particular time of the year, that porousness is even more enhanced, right? So our particular, maybe our natal chart or 10-year cycle that we're going through, or 1-year cycle, could really, you know, have a lot to say about what's available for us in this time. Because you may, you know, this ancestor, do divination. You have questions. Why am I such an idiot right now? Like, oh, you know. Oh, but what you said reminded me of a quote of Ming's, which was to talk about like a life being both ordinary and special. Mm-hmm. And if you think it's ordinary, you won't do anything, and if you think it's special all the time, you'll be disappointed. So it has to be just ordinary and special at the same time. It has to be both. Otherwise, you sort of lose track of like actually being in your life. It has. Then that's why a lot of the great poetry and all these different traditions is like floating down the river, you know, or like mowing my lawn, you know, or making tea. It's nothing. It's very ordinary. Yeah. Nothing special, but like everything.
Close the shutters.
Yeah. Yeah.
The flowers bloomed yesterday. And I'm sitting again, like, yeah.
And that's considered some of the greatest poetry ever written.
Yeah. It's
just to really be able to tap into that sort of ordinary everyday.
Noticing.
Special, just being alive. It was always the assumption in this tradition, Ming would say, that we don't need anyone to tell us. Everybody has it. Mm-hmm. Everybody already knows. You already know, like, what's special.
The moonrise today. Entire quadrant of the sky.
And still had that kind of like
luminescent orangey hue.
It's like right over your backyard, bro. Like right here. Like when the moon rises, you can just go out your driveway, take a left, and go like a mile, and it's like coming up over the whole valley.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even just driving up the road to get here was like basically driving up the river the moon paints on the ground with its little fucking rays.
To the moon.
I know, dark romantic, can't help it.
It's the best kind.
I was like, this is the appropriate drive.
Well, you brought that in here, then that's good that we waited.
Yeah, it broke out of the clouds. It was behind the clouds while I was in
Oh.
traffic. And then it's just like, you can go faster now. Come on up. All right. All right.
How you guys like this tea?
Better and better. Or
See, you mentioned earlier, this is 50% of the blend. It would have been 100%. Too expensive.
Too expensive. We need to bring it to the people. And just hold it back for people.
or what?
Yeah.
Too special.
Too special. No special. Just give it away.
Too mundane. The people.
And that's the generosity of the, generosity is my favorite phrase. Generosity always wins. It never fails. Never. Even if you're completely ripped off, it doesn't matter. Like, just wait. Your generosity is always a factor. Especially now, the more generous and kind you can be. And it doesn't have to be like, here's all my money. It's more just like, my favorite is that when people are telling you to think negative thoughts about somebody, don't. Don't. Just don't. Like, it's don't listen to the negative story, the negative narratives. Don't listen to them. Don't do it right now. You're only hurting yourself. Because going forward, insofar as there's actually anything to do during this time, you could say you're cultivating yin as well. And it's like you're cultivating good yin. And in that case, like, what is yin? Yin, like we have pretty, maybe a good grasp of like what yang qi is, go do it. But what's yin?
Rest like you need.
And in the process, without like trying, you find your appetite, and in your appetite is the inspiration for you to pursue when spring comes. Yeah. So, but if you're constantly, it's like fasting, right? If you do nothing but eat, I mean, fasting, stop eating at 7, like that's a fast, like I'm not eating at midnight or 1 o'clock. If you allow your body to recover, right, then the appetite that emerges in the morning is actually, an expression of your health, right? So that's the same thing in the seasons. So when the springtime comes, like, I know what I want to give my energy to, because you've nourished yin. So I call yin in that respect like potential. Yin is potential. We always talk about, like, one of the last times, that the Tai Chi symbol is not a it's not a description of a quantity, it's a description of a process, right? So the real, like, sort of balance between yin and yang is like 80-20. It's not 50-50. Yeah, it's not proportionate, it's a process, right? So like that symbol is a little bit, if you take it like proportion, then you have a misunderstanding, misapprehension of what yin and yang is about. It just means that it's one thing changing into another, and when you see the one, the other one's behind it, and then when you see that one, then the other one's behind that. Like, and forever.
80-20 yin to yang.
Yes. Or even less.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense in our experience too, because forward facing, it's my experience, it's my yin aspect.
Right.
Maybe I can see my yang aspect.
Right.
I can't see my back.
Right. Right.
So mostly
it's the direction, it's the tone, it's all the qualities of movement, whereas yang is movement, so how much gas. Whereas the yin is sort of like, well, I can go soft, I can speak loudly, I can speak, like all those sort of gradations. Timing is very yin. And like all of us, I mean, our culture is like obsessed with timing, good timing, good timing, good success, like you think every, synchronicities, you know, synchronicity is very woo, right? So you have to rest in order to get in. You can't just assume that you're going to have good timing all the time. You actually have to wait.
That was Ming's big message to me. Rest, man. Because I've always been go, go, go. Thank you for reminding me of that. So you just laugh at me.
Yeah.
Rest. You have to.
Well, he is so funny. Like when shortly after he died, I don't know if you guys heard of the Nat Ministry.
Yep.
Fantastic. And like every time I see the Nat Ministry, I'm like, Ming would love this. Like he would love just radical rest, and like that's it. That's the message. And I'm not answering any questions. Like you've done enough work, go rest. Period. That's like there's no gradation here. Like just a very simple message. And of course she's linking it into like a social justice, racial justice profile as well, which is obviously correct in this circumstance in this country. But the message is like appropriate to everyone. It's like I was like, that's Ming's, because he would complain about like in the yearly lectures, like I'm the only one here like telling everybody to go take a nap. Stop, just stop.
Yeah, everyone has resolutions and productivity.
Right. It's just more resolution after more resolution, but your desk is a mess. Like you've got just a ton of things unresolved, forgotten. All of those things are. I didn't understand it at first. I'll be honest. When I first started studying with him, I was like, "What do you mean? Like it's just you got things to do." But like in reality, when you think, if you think about, which would be a good time to think about now, there's this app called WeCroak. I don't know if you've ever seen it. WeCroak is great. You got to pay $3 a month, but I'm like best $3 ever. Like I don't subscribe to apps. But this I did. I was like, I will pay $3 a month to be reminded 5 times a day that I'm gonna die. I'm good with that. I can do that. You can take my $3. I'm good. You tell me, hey, and it's it. And like 5 times a day, it says, hey, as a reminder, you're gonna die. I'm like,
interesting. So
and it gives you a quote.
That's so Muslim. 5 times a day. You're gonna die.
It's Bhutanese too.
Wake up. Yeah. Hey, you're gonna die.
Yep.
Breakfast, you're gonna die. Lunch, dinner, nighttime.
Hey, you made it. And like, yeah, you made it to the morning. Like people that I know, I'm like, how are you today? They're like, I woke up today. Oh yeah. And like, yep, there you are. But so that's what we all facing. And like, it's this is a very good moon for that kind of just recognition of your one single precious life. And again, not so you make a decision to go to Costa Rica. Just so you recognize it, like not so that it inspires you too fast. Don't jump right into the inspiration. Just stay with the, oh shit. It's true. Damn. What's going to happen to all this stuff? It's a good question, because those are the things that may accompany you in the bardo. Like, think about it. Like, if you just drop dead, like, what would be the last thing on your mind? Like, that's the reason why there's Buddhism. Wow. Everybody tuning in is like, that went dark.
Time of year.
That's the time of year. Yeah.
Took then. Consider it.
Should all just wear like skull and crossbones. The death. I can't. I know people have started in response to a lot of Ming's work, like death practice. Death practice and dream practitioners. Excellent time to be exploring your dreams. A very good time. journaling, again, divination practice, any kind of oracular activity. Quite good. Ancestors are very available. And depending again where you are, you could have, some people have spirits in their backyard. Dragons in your backyard. Keep an eye out. And then, it'll be a water rat moon. And this is kind of a technical thing that I geek out about. So less profundity and more just detail. The moons are kind of shifted a little bit. So the pig moon is actually fairly early. Right. Like compared to like past years, like and what it indicates is that we are coming upon an intercalary month next year. Whether it be 2 rabbit moons, actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it's rabbit, double rabbit?
2 rabbit moons in a rabbit year.
Do they stack one
They
after
go
each other?
one right after the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we triple rabbit.
Yeah, we triple rabbit in it.
So,
Yeah.
that's auspicious.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty sweet. Yeah.
But that's just something that happens every once in a while. So should we really pay attention?
Yeah, right. Well, it actually happens regular.
Someone's been listening.
It happens regular enough, like 3 years or so, 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
It happens, but
This year,
yeah.
we had double tiger.
Did we?
Yeah, we started with
Tiger.
we had a
year.
yeah, because the first moon is always a tiger, but it was a water tiger moon in a
Yeah.
water tiger year.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be different. That's when I'm still, if I'm previewing next year, there's the lineup of the moons themselves is pretty nice. Like you've got a lot of the moons in their native elements, including wood tiger moon, wood rabbit moon, 2 of them. And then you go into, and you'll have a metal monkey moon. Yeah. And, and a water pig moon, so there's, yeah, it can be good, except for you're in a water rabbit moon. So, or water rabbit year. So it's, I call the water rabbit the wallflower rabbit. Yeah. So it can be some inhibition there. So what those moons, I think, will represent are various ways of overcoming inhibition or moving through inhibition, or like, sinking into inhibition. And the year itself actually, spring festival actually starts 2 weeks before spring starts. So like the year begins like in January 27th, I thought.
Yeah,
somewhere around.
Numbers are.
Yeah. 14.
2s
Yeah.
and 7s are about the same.
I'm
3s
so
and
bad at
5s,
that
4s are the
sometimes.
same.
Yeah. Yep. So, but somewhere near the end of January, the year will begin, but spring won't arrive for another couple weeks. So it'll be like a cold spring festival, which means you need to bring spring out in home, like bring the flowers out and like, and invite spring.
For spring celebration, there's a conversation digging a hole.
I would, first of all, I would ask your feng shui person about digging holes. That's not digging the ground. There's a period of time when you're really not supposed to do that. There are certain days when you're not supposed to dig. You're not supposed to dig a well, they say.
Yeah.
But that's just that means either like do research, because you're just going to spin in circles, or and never make a decision. So it's like a waste of time. But also it can mean like breaking the earth. You're not supposed to break the earth, because remember, like the feng shui practice that Ming was teaching, that's associated with, because feng shui and astrology together mean what to do, where to go, and when. That's it. That's what we're talking about. So the feng shui aspect of what to do, where to go, and when originally came from like nomadic traditions in Central Asia. So they have very strong regulations around breaking ground, and disrespecting place. So I would ask, if you were going to break ground, you want to do it on an auspicious day astrologically, and then you might want to dig the hole first and then sanctify the hole and then wait to do the cooking later. So it's like cutting down a tree. Like the whole narrative that Ming had about like ridgepole calculations for a home, right? You go, you have the feng shui masters go out and they pick the tree and then make offerings to the tree and then come back on an auspicious day to then take the tree. And the same thing in Sundance practices, when the elders go out to choose a tree, then they go and they make their offerings for a period of time before they come back and actually cut it down. And then the whole community shows up. So I would do similar sort of vibe for that, considering it's a spring festival and, getting the whole thing off on the right foot. If that's a center activity, a central activity for the celebration itself, then yeah, you do not want to like break ground and insult the land. And this is bad, as you know.
Wow. Things to consider.
But that feng shui person would be somebody to like, not in that corner, like over here, like, and how big the hole, like all that stuff. It gets pretty heady, for sure.
Big enough to cook a lamb.
But I love lamb, so that sounds delicious.
Guys, this tea. I'm gonna be drinking it tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
a little
lot
bit
there.
jealous there. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, that was the point I was making about the early start to the spring. But at this, so after this moon, then again, it's the rat will be a water rat.
How are we getting so many water elements? Because this was water pig, or am I? No, this
Metal.
is metal pig.
Yeah.
Metal is mother water.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Go back to my tea now.
well, it's funny you mentioned that, because like at the beginning of every year, the elements that start the year are the elements that finish it. That's always the case. So next year, there'll be wood tiger and wood pig, and then wood tiger and wood rabbit, and then at the end of the year, it'll be wood. Oh no, yeah, they close the year. Yeah, right. So then it'll be wood rat, wood ox at the end of the year. So this year it was water tiger, water rabbit.
Yep.
And at the end of the year, it's water rat, water ox. So it's always the case, it's the same element at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year. So whatever element that starts the year, it actually ends it as well. This is kind of cool.
Yeah.
There's so many patterns like this. I could go for another hour just being like, well, every fifth day there's, like, and because it's math. Ming would just say, it's like, this isn't personal, it's just math. And, astrology is not necessarily the most prominent or important cofactor in every situation. Not necessarily. I was thinking about like election stuff or what have you, when people are like talking about astrology as if it matters, or it could influence those things. I'm like, no, not really. I mean, there's so much momentum around the history of what we've been doing as humans in this particular country for X number of years, and all of that momentum, although it may be informed, by the astrological sort of environment, the momentum of those choices, historical choices, and the continuous, way things have been carried out, actually is where most of the momentum is. It's not in the astrology, which is the reason why the Confucian attitude was keep it standard, keep it simple, like, and don't go off on tangents, because what we do as being part of the tri relationship between heaven and earth and humanity, what we do affects heaven and earth always. So there are particular days actually in which your standard routine activity actually makes sure that there's adequate rainfall, or that's the understanding, is that like our good behavior as humankind actually influences, it can easily influence the kind of weather we have. I mean, it's just, that sounds a little far-fetched to the modern ear, but like that was the actual practice of not just like esoteric astrologers, but of the empires, of the actual government, the imperial government. The second largest department in the imperial government was the astrological calculation, only after the military.
What JP Morgan said, millionaires don't do astrology, billionaires do.
Ooh, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's not my favorite. Timing. Yeah. Knowing how to listen. And letting your fruition be the extension of your view. Knowing what your view is. It's always view, method, and practice. View, method, and fruit. So you can always trace back what the fruition is to your method or to your view. Like, what do you think it is to be a human being? What are you? And that will actually influence, that's your view. That will influence where you think you're going. Like, is there an end point to this? Like, am I on a timetable? Like, do I have to get something done? Like, is that what you think a human being is? Like, and collectively we have to do this. How? Like, all of that rolls back to what you think it means to be a human being. What are you? Like that question, Ming would say, don't, like, distribution of resources. No, back further. What are you? What are you? So that's the view. And you have one. You can't not have one. It's impossible not to have. It's like prerequisite to move is like what your view is. And it's the one likely that you've been given by your parents or given by your teacher, right? Depending on the, where the influences lies. It's impossible not to have. We're wired to like, give me a view. And we get it and we move on it. And then your method and fruition come out of that. So you can always trace back people's big, what the fruition like back. Be like, oh, that's because you think life is supposed to be like this. That you work 60 hours a week.
How you view it is how you do it.
Thank you, everyone, for entertaining my rant.
It's funny, we started today saying that we were just like, all right,
That's it.
we're wrapped up.
Go to bed, everyone. Nothing to see here. Move along. That's it. I remember Ming would talk about like the water element being the janitors on the Death Star. Excuse me, please. Moving through, like just cleaning up messes. Like the Death Star was like super clean everywhere. Like there's nobody taking out the garbage. It's just metal element everywhere. It's like water elements, the janitor moving through. Excuse me, Lord Vader.
That'd make a great comedy sitcom.
Mm,
We'll spin it. Short series.
mhm. The janitors of the Death Star.
That's like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Right.
Dead. Just like the story from the part nobody paid attention.
Right. Right.
The janitor was there. Shit was clean.
Right. Right.
Unseen character.
Mhm.
really started actually. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the beauty of water element, is like anything's possible.
Again, testing the edges of imagination
You
or
also-
realizing that they're there. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very stimulating time for monkeys.
Yeah, it is. I just had a blast in San Diego.
Oh yeah, I want to hear all about it. Maybe not on camera, but like,
Oh my God,
yeah.
it was incredible. Yeah, Pacific Symposium.
I was like, should I look at these things? When you hit me up and you're just like, hey, thinking about you, and then I was like, symposium. I should have got the fucking got in the car.
Oh man, there were so many of your cohorts down
not-
there and getting their CEs.
No, it's okay. I don't have FOMO. I don't have. It's not in the season, so.
It felt like a candy store, you know? It's like
Reluctance.
Moxa, needles, ligaments, bones. Like every table's like, oh my God. I just felt so at home.
Yeah.
These are my people.
Happens annually when there's not a pandemic, right?
I felt that way about the chocolate festival. I was like,
These are my people.
hey,
You like chocolate? I love chocolate.
who doesn't like chocolate?
Somebody.
Actually, some people don't. Yeah,
I bet they're pigs. Not that.
no.
Not that.
Yeah, not that. Yeah. Well, I am kind of discerning in my chocolate taste.
What is your chocolate taste?
I tend to favor the 100% actually. I don't wear it as
Like
a
some-
badge or nothing.
Gotta taste the bitter.
Well, the reason why that I've come to realize this trip is sugar is kind of powerful. This is really powerful, right? So even though you've got makers out there that will have just two ingredients, you know, cacao beans and sugar, or you have, you know, cacao beans and cacao butter and sugar, or you know, they add the add cacao butter so they for the texture. Or they have like a ton of inclusions, and I mean, there's there's so many different options that are coming out of cacao. But what I found, just that the 100% are getting so good from either the the roasting process or the conching process, like all the different ways, or the fermentation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emphasis on fermentation right now at origin with the farmers, because they're trying to add more value to the farmers' work.
Of the stock.
Right. So
Yeah.
you don't like transport
They're warm.
wet beans, because you know your cacao pod is in a, you know, is surrounded by fruit, which is like 30% water. And so you want to start the fermentation process as soon as possible. So there's been like a pretty big effort to like do those processes at origin. I think it's actually making a huge difference for the available textures or flavors that come out of the bean itself. And so the 100% that I was tasting this particular time around was like, no, I mean, you know, like powerful, like it, meaning that like there isn't the sweetness that like gets you in the door, you know, like, oh, this is tasty, you know, like, and then you hang with it and then find all the flavors. You have to really just be with the bean, and like, but then you might have, I tasted 100% bars that were tobacco flavor or oak.
Whoa.
It's getting scotchy.
Right. So like, so it's a little bit like it, what I equate it to is that if you're a coffee fan or a tea fan, you wouldn't put sugar in this, right? Or you wouldn't put, you know, cream in, you know, I know you got that. So like, why do that with your chocolate? So that's kind of the kick I'm on right now. Is that like, and yeah, I've got, but you know, you can't sit there and eat a whole 100% bar. Like that's just, but that's not a bad thing either.
But will you just like throw back some like nibs and just grind them down with your mouth? And
The thing about nibs is they're not because there's part of the process where like the bean itself have everything you need, all the flavor profiles and the cocoa butter in itself that actually brings texture, because it's texture for me as well.
Okay.
So I don't like necessarily just throw back nibs, because I don't really like the texture. you know, I want a piece of chocolate that I can put in my mouth and have it
Do the thing.
dissolve and start going choo choo and sending off all these signals to my brain.
Amanda mine.
Yeah.
Whoa. What is this word?
Yeah. I had a whole
It's
weekend.
I thought it was theobromine, but no, maybe, how do you spell it?
You're far smarter than me.
Nah,
Amanda, I just heard
it's
it
like with an
many times.
A. Okay. I was like, theobromine was like, I'm pretty sure what I keep going back for.
Well, we're no longer talking about moons here, so
Talk about chocolate.
this might be a good time to wrap up. To our online guests, hi, Mary Parks, Connie. You guys, open the floor. You guys got any questions for us? No, any questions? Well, we got Shannon here.
It worked out.
Connie, okay, Mary Parks is putting something in there. Let's see what we said. Mary Parks says, oh, I gotta do something different here to see what she's saying. Okay. Chat, there it is. Yes, I have a question. Mary, what's your question?
Such a game show. You are so good. This is so fun doing this with you.
What about hot dogs and burritos? No. That's not what Mary asked. What about hot baths during this month?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, because you're in water, like you're in a medium, like the sweats, and stuff like that. I mean, even saunas, really, it's not that problematic. I don't think hot baths are. I mean, I'm not your the Chinese medical doctor. I don't have your pulse, so I don't know. But like generally speaking, hot showers, hot baths. I don't. Stay warm. Like stay warm in whatever way you need to. Just stay warm. Don't get cold.
Yeah, I think the general prescription for this time of year is hot water foot soaks and a fire to your back.
Yeah.
And extra credit, maybe buying a little access on the 36.
Circulate, yeah. Like especially your lower extremities, like really, really stay warm. So
Moxibustion. There we go. That answer suffice for you, Mary. Sound good. Thanks. And one more question. You mentioned incarnation. Carnation, instant breakfast. You're gonna love it in an instant. What's your question about incarnation? Brick, colon brick.
Yeah.
It never, I had never that before in Taoism, or heard that before in Taoism. Know what you're trying to say? Mary, maybe you can just talk, or do I have it set up so that you can't interrupt us? I might have put it in the, oh shit, let me see if I can change the security settings. Boom, I want people to be able to talk, okay. Yeah, unmute yourself. You should be able to unmute yourself. You want to unmute? Try. Still no. Okay, try. Try and mute yourself now. Can we hear you? Okay. Well, let's see what else is going on in the chat. Let's see.
I think trees.
Oh, okay. Still says it won't let us. All right. I don't know how to fix that. Let's see. So, what's the question then about incarnation and Taoism? One more question. You mentioned incarnation. Never heard that before in Taoism.
I mean, the tradition that the tradition that Ming taught was it was a bit of a hybrid, between the Lonchamintic Dzogchen lineage, which is a form of Buddhism, and then but he was like teaching Lao Tzu, so he wasn't really teaching like Taoism. he was teaching Lao Tzu, you know, like, and like, I highly recommend everyone to read his translation of the Tao Te Ching, like 100%. Go to ZhenWuAstrology.com, and like
That was like his last work, right?
that was his last work, you know, like that when he realized, you know, when he got the diagnosis that he was dying, he stopped everything so he could finish it. So in it still, they still they're in the introduction or the forward, the students that, you know, put that together actually were still compiling it when he died, you know, so they had to make decisions in his honor, you know, that I think are excellent, you know. So it's a it's a very valuable work, you know, from my perspective coming from like, I started studying these ways when I was 19, you know. I was introduced to the I Ching, what was called the I Ching, like Wilhelm Baines, you know.
Yep.
Garbage. I have to say it, it's garbage. Don't read it, you know, like it's going to confuse you. It's going to confuse you. Because I think it'll confuse you, because it deeply confused me for like a decade, and before I just dropped it because I couldn't understand what was being said, and that's part of just where I was at the time. But like reading Ming's translation of the Zhou and understanding the context of where the Zhou comes from culturally, historically, as he was teaching it, it just finally gave like texture to what that work was all about and why it was so valuable to Chinese culture. And it's a beautiful story. It's just an amazing story of like where that work comes from, and what it teaches us about leadership, and you know, because Confucius was incredibly inspired by the people of the Zhou. You know, like a lot of his principles that he was teaching, he came from that inspiration of the Zhou and the Zhou, right? So why am I mentioning that? Is because I had the same experience the about the Lao Tzu when I read his translation on Lao Tzu. All the millions of different translations of the Lao Tzu is great, but like nobody here can quote any of it. Like it didn't really grab you. Why not? You know, and I think the reason why it doesn't grab us as much as it can is that we don't really get a full understanding about what the book was for. It does have a purpose. You know, it's like it's a meditative tradition of the adepts, the people who are practicing ZhenWuAn, and you know, it's, if you're practicing ZhenWuAn, you read these chapters to like give yourself something to work with. You know, not in an intellectual way, but just so you can drop in to what the tradition had to say. So the reason why I bring that up is because, so I'm speaking from that place, you know, that there is for Ming, there is a crossover between these two worlds of incarnation. But yes, like at least in the cosmology of the Tuangshu, it's pretty clear, you know, that like and also in these other traditions that I mentioned, is that like there's really not a whole lot of, you might think you have reasons to think you're solid, and that's fine and good, but all of those reasons have a shelf limit. You'll lose them, maybe not intentionally. One day you'll just drop them. You're like, all your identities, they don't last, you know. So I think, thinking on, if I'm accessing correctly what she was responding to, is that notion that this is the time of year where a lot of your identities can kind of like, it takes a little bit more work to hold them in, you know. And some of them you want to hold in, like you don't want to forget your child's name, right? But some of the anxieties that you might have had about life in general, you know, maybe is a good time to actually reconsider, like, how important is it that you become whatever bobsled person, you know, like maybe not so important. Maybe you can actually relax all the imperatives that cause you stress, and that you identify yourself with, because that identification is a misapprehension. And that is the teaching of both the Lao Tzu and Lonchen Mentic Dzogchen teaching. That's a misapprehension. Whatever it is that you think you are, it's a misapprehension. Because if you just wait long enough, all of those things fade. So there are cool seasonal times of the year where you get to actually, where it's not so uncomfortable to engage that. And this is one of those times you just relax your you know, what you think you are, and then you actually might enjoy life, which we haven't really talked about when it comes to the pig. That's why there's the enjoyment there. You know, pigs don't have to be first, they're last. And so when you're last, you're not in a hurry. It's like I never get on the plane first. I always get on the plane last. You get to chill, hang out. You know, it's just this idea that like, hey, what's the hurry? You know,
I need priority seating.
for what? You know, so you can be cramped in a chair for 20 minutes longer than you would normally. You know, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. They're all perfectly valid. It's just during the pig time. During the pig time, it's just like, yeah, try not to take it so seriously. Like, or at least if you're getting worked up about something, you know, this is a good time to like ask yourself why. Again, not so you can get inspired to go to Costa Rica. So you can just look at, you know, just that's life. That's ordinary, you know. And you can come around to the conclusion that, well, I know I care about this. And that's fine. Like there's no judgment about it, you know, but it means there's no judgment about it either way. So whatever your imperative is, like understand that it's just you holding it, nobody else. And that's also okay.
That's a good place. 8:30, that's our time anyway. Tune in next month for Rat Moon.
Yes, right. It hits the horse button. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Ciao.
Man.
Thank you.
Hey, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, this was fantastic.
That was Connie. Connie, you
Yes.
enjoyed that?
Yes, great information.
Thanks, Connie.
Nice. Yeah, we do this every month, Connie, so keep coming back, okay?
Great, thank you. Have a great evening.
Only because you say so. My wife
Bye.
logged on just in time to say goodbye too. Hi, honey.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Ooh, there's more chat. There's more chat. There's more chat. Let's see. There's more chat. Oh yeah, I've been.
Behind you.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
one.
Isn't that cool? We got it from a salon. Because you know something about stuff that's made in China is, you know, yeah, they're known for their quality, right? And so we got the salon variety of heat lamp just in time for the season. The 3-prong, so you get the feet, the knees, and the hips, or the, you know, shorter person, whole body warmed up. Yeah.
How do you have multiple rooms in your practice, or
Bye, guys.